City Council Room. All members of the council are present. Others include James Johnson, Clerk Treasurer, and Laura Dogan, our City Manager. The next item is to approve the minutes of December 6, 2021.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes accept the minutes of 6 December 2021.
A motion is made by Mr. Wilson to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Vashon. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Whoops. Oh well, I signed on the wrong line. I did a test instead of. It worked. Okay.
Just,
I didn't leave it up for a while.
It's all right. Okay. Okay. Next item is the Newport Ambulance Service presentation.
members of the public.
Oh, I'm sorry. No one had signed up. Comments by members of the public. No one signed up, so I just kind of. Okay. Okay. Next item is the Newport Ambulance Service presentation. We have Jeff Johansson. He's the Executive Director. Welcome.
Thank you. Jeff Johansson, Executive Director, Newport Ambulance, also a paramedic. Just give you a quick overview of where we're at this year. So far in 2021, we've done 2,920 calls. 1,082 of those calls have been to the city of Newport, or residents of the city of Newport. That's slightly up, about 40 more calls for the city of Newport this year. To help offset some of the expenses that we've had this year, we've been working on COVID testing. We COVID test out of the city of Newport Ambulance Station 4 days a week. We give vaccines 1 day a week, and we've also been going out and have vaccinated over 1,000 homebound people in Orleans and Essex County over the year, and we've been giving out the booster shots as needed, helping to get some of that grant money in to help offset the cost to the towns. With some of that extra money that we've had, we have paid off a couple ambulances and our cardiac monitors, which we had loans for the next 4 or 5 years out to help maybe bring down the cost for the future. Any questions for me?
And your budget's really only up about 3,000.
So,
For
yeah,
the city from
for
last
this,
year.
yes. So our overall budget, we went with a 3% increase. The new per cap for 2020 came out, so the cost for the city of Newport is up only about 2%.
Questions from city council members?
Just glad you're here.
Thank you. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Laura, did we, this agreement?
Oh, yeah. So if you do need to make a motion on that agreement, there's 2 in there, and I can mail him one.
Okay, because we have to sign the, because they're on,
You have to-
they're not on our same fiscal year, they're on a calendar year.
Correct.
So we have to approve this starting January 1st, 2022.
That's correct. So you guys will want to make a motion to approve that. There's 2 copies there, so you'll need to sign both, assuming your motion is affirmative.
So I'll move to enter the agreement with Newport Ambulance Service.
A motion's been made by Ms. Pedersen. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wilson to enter into the ambulance service agreement. Discussion on that? It's the same agreement as we had before, just extending the dates.
Exactly, and we pay them in one check, right? I think they received the check no later than July 30th, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, because we have to wait for our fiscal year.
Yes,
to
yeah,
begin.
so it works out really well.
Yes. Any other questions?
None to sign.
I'll sign. Then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries. I can sign it right here. Okay,
There's two of them if you don't mind. Or
Yeah.
you sign both?
I can sign both, I'll sign both, that way we have
Thank you.
one for us and one for them.
Excellent.
If I can get it to open up. There. Back to the water. Okay. Very good. Next on the agenda is the Newport City Downtown Development presentation by Chair Rich Tatro and Community Engagement Specialist Rick Ufford? Ufford, sorry. Chase.
Maybe approach the bench.
Yes. Is it approach the bench?
And written on my paper here, I have the word UP in quotation marks to remind myself that up is for upward taste, so I make the same memory reply, so thank you for your patience, Rick. City Council members, Mr. Mayor, we're here to really go over this exhibit that you have in your package, which is our annual report, and give an overview. And I want to preface it by saying thank you for your continued support. It doesn't go unrecognized and unappreciated, so thank you very much. So this is going to be a tag team to go over the report because I do want to afford the opportunity to get to know Rick a little bit better as well. So he will go through some of the highlights that are in this document, and I'll give the preamble at the beginning, so we'll go that way. So the first paragraph really talks to why we're here. Many of you know, all of you know, that the state of Vermont created this designated downtown program in the early 2000s. And in 2007, Newport City petitioned to have a designation as well, which is why the Newport City Downtown Development Organization was created. So we've been at it for 14 years. And it's, as it says here, we're a tool to incentivize people coming to the downtown. So it's been going well, and it's to help guide land use planning, as the paragraph highlights. It goes on to talk about, we have a board of directors, and we're the 501c6 classification. And with board members, I want to highlight that they're all volunteers. I'm happy to say that the board membership has grown in the past year. We did lose one member, Jennifer Daigle of the Community National Bank, but we're still strong with myself as chair, Dan Pellerin from Edward and Jones, Steve Wright from J. Peak, Eleanor Ledger from Eden Cider, as well as new members Sarah Chadburn from Community National Bank and Casey Baroff from Inspiration Yoga. So great to have these volunteers working with us. They all bring a different flavor of experience and expertise to the board, and as well as Laura, who is like a rock for many of us on the board because she has that institutional knowledge of the history and the perspective that is good to hear from the city's perspective. Again, she is an ex officio non-voting member, but very much valued. So this year's been busy. We had some transition. And Rick Ufford Chase has come to us this September and really hit the ground running as an engagement specialist. He's an employee of the organization, as well as some services we're retaining with Byron Maravich to work on our communications and social media strategies. Now, I did highlight here in that paragraph, engaging the community members. And that is what Rick does very well in this short 3 months that he's been with us. He's gotten to know a lot of the community members here, and he's really engaging and getting, more importantly, other people to engage with us and with each other across the city of Newport. And it's really building momentum. So with that, I'd really like Rick to touch upon where the momentum is growing with the bulleted sections that we have in this report. So go ahead, Rick.
Thank you, Rich. It's wonderful to be with all of you tonight and to begin to get a sense of how the City Council operates. So I'll just start by saying, as I came in, the website was just about complete. and it took about a month and a half after I arrived here for that work to finish up. And it's amazing and wonderful. I encourage you to go home and take a look at it if you haven't already. It's discovernewportvt.com. And there's a new logo that is highlighted on that website that we're using on all of our material right now. But the key for my work is, I think the title, Community Engagement Specialist, was chosen with a lot of care. It's clear that my job is to engage the community, as many people in the community as I can, in a shared effort to try and revitalize downtown Newport in whatever way we can, the downtown Main Street area and the Waterfront Plaza. So there are 4 committees that I'm responsible for trying to kind of encourage. And the first one that we've really focused on is marketing and promotions. And the way that's working at the moment is that in, I guess it was late October, early November, I reached out. I just started walking up and down the street and over to the waterfront and knocking on doors and introducing myself. And I tell folks that I'm trying to move at the speed of trust. There's a lot of history. Some folks are new here. Others have had a lot of history here. And so I would clearly announce the things that I didn't know and just encourage folks to let me know what they think I should know. And I'm pleased to say this has gone way better than I thought it might, actually. As of now, I think we've had 6 meetings in a row every week for 6 weeks. There have been a minimum of 10 people who have gathered, as many as 16. And I've got a mailing list now, an email list that's about 35 people who get the minutes. So even if they're not at the meeting, they're reading the minutes, most of them. And then I walk the streets for those who aren't reading the minutes and walk in the door and catch people up each week on what we've been doing. And the primary focus of that group has been to agree that we're going to use this winter to do some training together. How do we try to kind of work together on cooperative efforts? We started with the December 4th event. And just everybody made a commitment to keep their lights on later and see how it went. I thought it was a very good start. We're just, as of yesterday, we did a raffle where we raffled. We had 40 people who shopped in 3 or more businesses and filled out cards and dropped them in a bucket, and we chose 5 of them. And today I delivered $100 downtown dollars to each of those 5 folks who were thrilled. It was really fun doing the deliveries. The next major project on my mind is that we'll be doing Hot Cocoa Saturdays, the last Saturday of the month, in January, February, and March. The February one, of course, will coincide with the Newport Winter Festival. And the idea there is just to get everybody to do something a little special, to bring people into their businesses, to turn their lights on, to generate energy and enthusiasm. So I think that Steve has agreed to bring a shuttle bus down from Jay, and we'll hopefully even have a shuttle bus that circulates from Gardner to Prouty Beach where the sledding's going on and to the downtown area, and just try for 5 or 6 hours to see how it goes, try to get people to make the connection between downtown and those other activities. So I'm really pleased with that and looking forward to seeing how it goes. But in the end, those efforts, the Hot Cocoa Saturdays and the Winter Festival, from my perspective, are primarily about building trust with everyone so that we can actually really start planning some stuff for spring, summer, and fall. The next committee is the Economic Development Committee that the mayor serves on. They are meeting monthly now and working on a number of projects. The most significant of which, in my mind, is the least glamorous one, which is that we're going to spend the next couple of months building a piece of the website that will be a go-to spot for anyone who's considering trying to open a business in Newport. So you can expect to have a report back on that by springtime. Then the design committee, to be totally honest, is driven largely at this time by Laura and the staff here, and we'll be working in January to begin to get some volunteer support around that effort that the city has been making and to really help to drive some energy from the downtown groups. And then Rich and I are responsible finally for the last committee. The organizational committee is really about just trying to make sure that we are practicing good governance, that we're keeping good records, and that the board feels supported in all it's doing. So last thing I'll say about the kind of the way all this fits together is that we're following the Main Street model, Main Street America model, which is these 4 committees are kind of prescribed, the 4 that I've just described to you, and they're all supposed to be working together toward a common transformational goal. In this case, the clear agreement, no one is arguing about this, it's wonderful, everybody's on the same page, that we are working together to build an outdoor recreational economy in Newport. And I'll just stop there and invite any questions that you'll have.
Council members?
So is the focus totally on outdoor recreation to the exclusion of other business opportunities?
No, no, absolutely not. But what we are trying to do is help the businesses here in downtown Newport and the Waterfront Plaza to know what's going on around them with opportunities that are being developed around outdoor recreation, and then to actually try and sync with those opportunities so that their businesses are feeling built up in the process of building that outdoor recreation economy.
Thanks.
It's a great question.
Jim, can you turn on that TV so folks can see it behind you? I just wanted to open up the new website, if folks haven't seen it, along with the new logo. And it's lovely.
It is, I just wanted to say that I went through the website, and it's a much improved over the other one, and I like, it's completely bilingual, which is good. And it's not just using Google Translate, it's, you had someone actually translate it, so it's, as we say, phonetically correct in French.
And all of these things, we tried to cast the net far and wide to be as inclusive as we could be. So this Discover the Area, for example, depending upon what you might be interested in, and these are local folks, these are all local photographs from this area. The marketing firm came up here and did interviews and took photographs of actually this area and people using this, our assets.
So are any of the business, I guess, how do you get on here? Is it open to any business that's in the area, or is there a fee to be on, or?
So, good question. There is no cost to the businesses to be here. We're focused pretty intently on the businesses that are within the downtown designation,
Right.
which includes the Waterfront Plaza.
Okay, thanks.
And there are a few that are missing that we're actually, Brian Maravich and I are actually reaching out to those businesses to make sure that everybody who is downtown
Mhm.
and wants to be on it
Right.
can and should be on it.
Because it is the downtown development.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I should say, we're working hard at building a relationship with the Chamber of Commerce, kind of rebuilding that relationship. And there are a number of really pretty thoughtful attempts going on right now to try and kind of pull together a coalition of folks to kind of across the region. And we are absolutely at the table for those conversations to make sure that the downtown area is really represented in those conversations.
Thanks.
Other questions?
I got one of my own curiosity, if I may.
Yeah.
Is the city landscaper on that design committee?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Wanted to make sure.
Oh, yeah. We have all the relevant people. I mean, let's see, we've got Public Works, and the city landscaper, our rec director, and our budget person to make sure that we can afford stuff.
Have you opened it up, though, to other than city employees?
Well,
Yeah,
I
that's-
remember the
that's it.
downtown organization was concerned at one time with the number of city folks
Yeah.
being on committees, or not so much committees, but, things like that. They wanted to make sure that these committees were opened up to the members of the community.
Yeah, it's a great question, Mayor. When I arrived, the board was really clear that several of these committees had really kind of become fallow. They were just kind of laying dormant during the pandemic. And they asked that I begin with the Marketing and Promotions Committee to just try and build the downtown esprit de corps, really. And then move on to the Economic Vitality or Development Committee. And we all agreed that in January, the next move is to really begin to reach out and try and revitalize the volunteer part of that design committee that has in fact been driven largely by the city over the last couple of years. So that's our next step.
Because I know it's good on the Economic Development Committee, you've got at least 3 business people.
Yep.
Three business, I think, if I remember right. So-
Yeah, I'm excited. We've opened the door on a conversation with the folks at the North Country Career Center about the possibilities of beginning to get some younger folks involved in some of those questions, in any of the committees, frankly, but I'm particularly interested in Design Committee. And as long as the city is kind of at the table and driving the process to make sure that it's all coordinated, I think it can only help if we get people excited about coming to be a part of it.
Other questions? Mr. Roy?
Mr. Mayor, what languages is the website in? You said it was multiple languages?
It's in French and English.
French and English, okay.
Anything else? Did you want to add anything?
No, thank you very much, appreciate the support.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is budget review, and we're gonna start off with recreation.
Actually, I think both Recreation and Tom are gonna come up because since the transition with Public Works doing the maintenance of the parks, they're gonna sort of tag team this.
Evening, everybody.
So you all know Tom and you know Mike Brown, Rick Director.
I'll start out. Mike and I have been working together, looking at stuff. I mean, as far as the budget goes, we're gonna share. You know, of course, the employees are under me and the maintenance and any costs associated with that. Of course, all the programming and everything else will be all up to Mike. We've also been trying to assess where the rec department was going and where they were at as far as any capital stuff. When I took over, looking at Prouty Beach and Garden Park, there'd been talk about a bunch of different scenarios and problems that they were experiencing. So we heavily hit Prouty Beach. We hit that main bathroom, put a new roof on it, put a new roof on the ticket booth. Every facility got painted, replaced pretty much all the toilets in 3 of the bathroom buildings. Looking to replace some sinks this coming spring and do the flooring in the bathrooms to kind of give them a nice, fresh, new look. We're also looking, they had budgeted some money to expand in the parking lot, so we're looking at the parking lot sites. We're also exploring the overflow area, which is on the side where the tennis courts are, that open field area, which currently has water and power. It'd be a very simple hookup to put up sewer there to make those full hookup sites.
How many sites could be put there?
Haven't really measured it, to be honest with you. I'd say probably 10.
See, that goes right into my next train of thought, is I think we need to have an area designated for groups that come in. You know, and I think that would be a good spot. I'm thinking of the ATV groups that come in for the weekend camping.
Sure,
And
that'd be
I
a
think-
perfect location.
And I think it'll eliminate some of the headaches that we faced with last summer.
Yep.
And I think having that, if you have at
Sure.
least 10 spots,
Yeah.
that would be good. That way you don't have the seasonals and
Yeah.
these large groups intertwined.
Well,
And I think
they put
that's,
them right in the middle of all the seasonal, so that probably wasn't the best place for them.
Right.
But this will certainly give us some different options.
I think that's very important for over
Yeah.
there, especially as we grow the visitation from the side-by-sides and even other groups. You know,
Sure.
you might get a motorcycle rally, come in with a toy and a little whatever.
Family
Yeah.
reunion.
Family
Yeah.
reunion.
Yeah.
And so,
Anything.
I just think it's a good idea to have an area that's for groups.
Yep, absolutely.
Can I ask a question just
Sure.
kind of related to that too? Because, you know, full disclosure, I don't camp. I've told everyone that if I ever in my life can talk about getting a camper to like straighten me out, because I don't want to camp. So, but just listening to the conversations that have taken place, the other thing that seems to be a little bit of an issue is, you know, when the campground was laid out, everybody had little campers, and everybody's got full-size trailer homes like. 42 feet, 48 feet, a lot of people have those, and that the lots really
Mhm.
aren't necessarily accommodate them really well. It really puts people on top of each other, and I don't know if that's something that is something that we can do some lots that can accommodate the larger
Well,
places and maybe charge more, I don't know.
Well,
But it's always a revenue issue too.
take the 5 sites that we built down on the path right on
Yeah.
the beach. Those before were just basically tent sites. You could put a little pop-up down there. There was no sewer.
Yeah,
So now they're full 50 amp water and sewer hookups, and they're the most sought out
Yeah.
ones. The big parking lot, the idea there was to accommodate what you're talking.
Okay.
Some of these people come in and they want a drive-through site. So we're kind of looking at how we can lay out that parking lot, so you might have 4 or 5 sites where they can just drive in, drive out. Because there's such big rigs nowadays.
yeah,
To back them in, it's a challenge.
yeah,
And most of this wiring on the right-hand side, so I think it's site 1 to 14, they're 50 amp hookups, but the wiring's not big enough. These people are coming in with 2-3 AC units on these campers, and they just keep popping the breakers.
yeah.
So we're gonna upgrade that also. One of the things I started, if you've been down over or by there recently, to the right of the road is that pine section. We took away most all the tent sites. There's hardly any small tent sites. So we're opening that up in there, and we're gonna build a road in there and build tent sites. They're pretty much gonna be primitive tent sites. I've put some feelers out to the high school to see about maybe the Career Center building a couple lean-tos. I don't know if you don't camp, but if you ever go to the state parks,
Yeah.
something
I've
along that
camped twice
line.
in my life, and both times were disastrous, absolutely disastrous.
Because we are pretty much a
Camp at the
trailer
hotel.
park. We don't
Yeah.
have too many. I mean, you could tent anywhere there
Yeah.
if you want to pay for a hookup, but you're gonna be amongst
Yeah, well,
some
then,
big RVs.
Right.
So,
okay,
that's kind of our, where we're pushing right now. There has been thoughts, or money set aside, we're trying to assess where we are. It's been a struggling year to try to evaluate what needs to happen and take place, but Mike and I are gonna work along together and see if we can make this.
it sounds like that, it's being thought about and hopefully acted on, and that we can diffuse some of the situations that have happened by, again, revisiting the campground, because, I mean, it's old, and it's just sort of been there and not, adjusted or, things like that very much. And I'm glad the toilets are new.
And just let you know, my idea of camping is not running the AC. Just take it, back it in, and enjoy the fresh air.
Yeah, right. Well, and I think, we talk about it being a campground, but really it's for part of our clientele there, it's summer residents. It's
Right.
not going
Right.
out for a weekend and visiting someplace new. It's like go south for the winter and then come back and park your
But
camper.
the other half of the campground
Is transients.
Is your transients
Right.
coming in, and these
Yeah.
people are basically on vacation.
Right,
So
and
you
so
you
it's-
are right, if we can kind of segregate them a little bit, because
Yeah.
they're there to have a good time.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what they're paying for, so.
I'll share my first camping experience so you understand where I'm coming from. My friend lived on a hillside farm, okay? We were like 7th grade. We were gonna camp out, she had a pup tent, had a little, the bottom in it. We pitched our tent, we had a fine time, we woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning, this deep in water. Never occurred to us you weren't supposed to pitch your tent with the opening on the uphill side.
Okay, so we'll go into the
Moving
budget.
into the
Let's get.
Rick operating.
Yep, let me get my screen.
So this is, my first go around with the budget, so, first go around with a full, writing this, so, I think without having a full cycle under my belt and the institutional knowledge, I tried to keep out a lot of the lines consistent with the history. So I'm gonna highlight some of the changes, some of the big changes, and then that'll give more time for Tom to spend more time on his. So on the revenue side, one of the biggest changes on the rec program and events section, the biggest change there is we're bringing back the traditional 8-week day camp. So that number right there is based on 40 youth, which I think is conservative and very doable. So you'll see an increase of 48,000 there. At the waterfront, we're expecting gasoline sales to go up with the border opening. We'll keep your fingers crossed. Hopefully, it can, you know. So there's an increase there, but that also has a correlating expense down bottom, so it's about a net of 15,000. Also, another thing I want to highlight, it doesn't change very much, but the income on transients and seasonals at the waterfront, we were conservative on those lines, and those were based on actuals from the last fiscal year, not this budget. So I think overall on the budgeted revenue, it's roughly an increase of $56,000 compared to last fiscal year actual, and $34,800 compared to this budget. On the expense side, a couple of big highlights. At Prouty Beach, we increased the minimum wage on the seasonal staff, and we're also planning on increasing the number of hours. And with that, it's so that way we can staff the ticket booth longer and provide better customer service. Also with that, we might see a correlating increase in resale of goods on the revenue side, but we didn't budget for that. But with expanded hours at the ticket booth, we could increase sales, and that could offset some of those expenses. And recreation and program, the major increase there are the salaries for the day camp. That's based on 6 program staff and 1 lead counselor, which we didn't have last year. And then the salaries at Gardner Park, if you scroll down, the increase there was due to the move to Public Works. So compared to last year's, or compared to this year's budget, the budgeted increase overall is about $58,000, but compared to the 2021 fiscal year actual, we decreased the overall liability by $42,000. So with that increase and adding in the full summer day camp, makes a big difference.
Do we discover, the collective we, that when the day camp was eliminated, that there was actually more call for it than we realized, and that's why we're bringing it back?
That's a fair assessment. The idea was to not do the traditional summer camp for an 8-week program, but do week-long mini camps. And I do think the mini camps were popular, but I think that removing such a stalwart program from the community was not something that benefited the community. And so they did an abbreviated program last year. I think it lasted either 4 or 6 weeks, right in that range.
Yep.
This year, we're putting it back to
All
a
summer.
full week,
summer.
Yeah.
8 week.
And in my experience, like, you know, camp is camp, no matter, I've worked at camp in many states, and if you do an all-summer program, you see kids stay the entire period, because parents use it as a daycare or, you know, a substitute.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think the 40 kids that we're planning is a very conservative number.
Now,
I was just gonna say, it seems to me that having, sort of a full experience of things rather than just always concentrating
That's
on
even
one
there.
thing, you know, you're 10 and the only thing you're concentrating on is one sport.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's a better growth development
You don't
thing
want to
to
limit
be.
your market.
Yeah,
I guess my question is, if you sign up for the camp, you're signing up for 8 weeks.
No, we're gonna have a package deal, so it's a 1 week, this is based on $150 per week. And then we're gonna have price points, you know, 2 week, 4 week package deals with a little discount.
No.
So it gives an incentive to
But
sign up for multiple
I'm
weeks.
assuming city residents get a discount over out-of-town
Of
residents.
course.
You know, I just wanna make sure,
sure.
because, you know, and we also have, I believe, if I remember right, if someone couldn't afford it, we have a scholarship
There is.
that's set up. Am I still correct on that aspect?
Yeah.
We still have a scholarship so that if someone truly can't afford it, but they wanna go to camp, they can.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanna make sure we still have that. Another thing is, I just wanted to, once again, make sure that we're charging difference for city
Yeah.
residents versus non-city. Okay.
That's my report.
yeah.
Questions from council members on the rec department, budget?
Do we know how many, well, not good numbers for last year, I guess, but how many city kids actually participate in our programs?
don't have those numbers, but I could find out.
Yeah, I really didn't
Yeah.
expect you to know off the top of your head, I was just,
I don't know if last year's a
My
good year
demands
to
aren't that
compare.
great.
You might want to go back a couple of years.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Because of COVID. But yeah, I'll do some
I'd
research
be
and see
curious
if I
to
can
know
find
the
out.
number
Yeah.
of city children that actually.
Actual city and not just
Yeah, actual
Yeah.
city
Yeah,
children,
yeah.
yeah.
addresses.
Not that it's not
Mailing
good for
addresses,
everybody.
yeah.
Right, it's gotta be city, because
Yeah.
you're
Yes.
right, when you made a point, we had a case where someone was saying they had all the city residents doing something, and it turns out it was
Yeah.
people living way up off the I call it Darling Hill Road now, or Salem View Heights
Yeah.
actually has a mailing address of
Of
Newport,
Newport,
but
yeah.
it's physically in Derby.
Yeah.
So I think it would be the for people who physically live in
Yeah.
the city.
It'd be good information to
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions for recreation?
So I'll put you on the spot, but are you enjoying it so far here?
I am. You can't see my
There's a whole
smile.
audience, what are you gonna say?
He's got 2 very successful events under his belt, in a short period of time. The December 4th was a little bit of a impromptu event. We didn't know that was gonna happen, but the crowd
Okay, let's do it.
everything was just perfectly positioned to make it happen, and we were very pleased with the outcome. And then this weekend's delivery was just as smooth as it could be for the Commonwealth Party. Nice.
Yes, that was a good event.
Thank you for your help.
And I like the evolving Santa and the reindeer. who ended up grounded and then were taken off, and now they actually have a harness with the lights to the sleigh, so when they take off, the
It's
sleigh's
really
going with
close
them.
to Christmas, so they're starting to take flight.
Any other questions on recreation? Then I guess we'll move on to Public Works.
As usual, the general budget it's only up a couple %. There's really not much to say in there. The only increases really in there is salaries. And, we typically come in with a pretty tight budget. I always say that if you're gonna look to cut something in Public Works, it's probably gonna be capital, because there's really not much in the general fund. But if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask.
I got one, Tom.
Sure, Kevin.
I don't know if it was Recreation Department, but I think it's gonna be the 2 employees that transferred over from the Rec Department. Now, are they pretty much answering to Mike, or?
No, they are under me. That's why we kind of we're sharing the Recreation Department. So both, now it's Adam and Mac are part of the union, and I've always overseen all the union guys, so I've taken over all facility maintenance and upkeep, which would be Prouty Beach, Gardner Park, the Gateway. Their salaries are still in the rec budget, so like I said, Mike and I are gonna be working close together to kind of keep track of everything. It's gonna be a little difficult at first, probably, but I think it's gonna work out fine. Like I said, this past year, taking it over, it was a little bit of a challenge, to try to get things, and we're probably not perfect, but, get them back in a little bit more of an order where we were getting a lot of complaints at Prouty Beach. There were some at Gardner Park with the fencing, we tried to address that. And, but again, it's gonna be a good working relationship, and Mike and I seem to get along, and it's the same with all the department heads. We're a team, we all work together and try to get it done.
I was just thinking for like the events, for example, the winter carnival or something like that, where additional manpower just might be needed or whatever.
I will say this, over the years that I've been working here, overseeing water and sewer and public works, it's been always kind of nice, because I have control out of all of them. So if I have a disaster, I've got something major going on, I can pull everybody in, and it's the same thing here. You looked at all the props that we made for the light up. It was an all hands on deck, quite honestly. A lot of the guys got involved, even in the public works side, and we made it happen. And Mike had some great ideas, and I think it went off very well.
And it was good, because we all worked together as a team. We had several like interdepartmental meetings, we brainstormed with, Rick and his guys. So we were really working well as a team,
Yeah.
and I see that moving forward.
I'm glad to working at the beach, because there has been improvements here that probably wouldn't have happened otherwise, so.
Well, I don't know, I'd like to think that we were spearheading it, and we hope to keep continuing down that same path.
Doing well.
Next year, once we assess, it's kind of hard to assess where we were really at capital-wise, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But we're looking at some of the stuff that we had a lot of complaints on, and trying to see if they are justified, or if we can just get in there and do a little maintenance and not have to rehab something completely.
The hockey rink, is that on the radar?
It's in bad
Absolutely.
shape. Oh my God, I looked at it. That's
It's been on my
horrendous.
radar for a number of years, but.
But, I mean, I wouldn't wanna use it with the
Well,
condition.
it's actually, we've done a little work on it. We put the doors back on, because I'm a hockey player. It's the only sport I ever played. And if you're out there skating, last thing you want to do is not be paying attention and find there's a door open or no door halfway down the rink.
Or a
and-
nail sticking out.
And a nail or screw stick out. We were just talking about that, Mike and I, earlier. I'd come up with an estimate probably a year ago to redo all the boards, and I mean, the beams are there. We'd have to replace all the wood.
Yeah.
So I will be coming back to you by next winter, next year to do something about it, because if we don't, we're gonna have to just rip it down, quite honestly.
You don't wanna do that.
No. But I think you'll see this year, hopefully we're starting to get some cold weather. We just started flooding today. I'm hoping it stays this way, so during the Christmas break for the kids, they get a place to go, and we're trying to make it a little bit bigger than it has been in the last few years, and try to get the crowds down there. So, get everybody outside, get some fresh air.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a question, I was just thinking about it. When do we get notified again about the state aid to highways? We haven't got the actual numbers yet for the upcoming year, because the state
It
hasn't.
hasn't really changed much.
I think it's up a little bit, but not very much.
Yeah,
141?
yeah,
Oh, because I was looking at the actuals from 2021.
yeah. No, but, yeah, I think it's the 141, 100.
That's what we're gonna get?
I think so.
You
You
don't know?
don't know what you're gonna get. I wouldn't tell you.
We count on it.
$2.50.
If we don't, I'll be trying to make up something somewhere.
Right,
so.
right, no, because I just saw
I
that
was hoping
one.
it'll be at least 141.
Yeah, no, I didn't know if we had a number, because I saw that 181, that one, must have just been,
181?
in the actuals for 2021. See right there,
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
I do.
and I was just
There was
curious.
an extra chunk of money that they pulled out.
The state did that year, okay,
Yeah. And I don't know if they just had extra, I don't know where it really came
so
from.
it's better to keep the 141,
Oh, yes.
yeah, okay. Now, that just kind of stuck out at me, and I was curious.
I'm glad you brought that up, because those of you who may not know that, our paving, that's basically our paving money. And years ago, when we had, I think maybe 100 or 200,000, 225,000 budgeted, and the state's given us 130 some odd $1,000, and so really all we were putting in tax dollars was that difference. And that's why every year I try to keep the paving money up there, because we're getting a chunk from the state
Okay.
that offsets that.
Other questions for Tom in Public Works?
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Anything from anyone over here? No? Yes?
I just wanted to know, is there any additional grant money that you get each year, other than the state aid?
The state aid we get so many cents per lane mile. There's a classification for class 1, 2, and 3. That's what the state aid for highway funds is. As far as grants,
Right.
This project out here in the intersection was a grant. Party Beach Path was a grant. I have 55 brand new light poles that had a little dilemma with. They only drilled one hole in for the banner arms, but replacing all the light poles on Main Street, Seymour Lane, Field Avenue, that was a grant.
Okay.
Those
And
poles are in my garage right now.
were they in the budget for last year and we paid, the citizens paid for that?
That was the poles, that was a 50-50 grant that I received to replace these poles that are all, we painted them once, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and they're rotting out.
And the
So I
private-
I took construction money to offset the 50-50 grant for that.
So that was citizen money?
Yep.
And what about Friday Beach? Did the citizens pay for that and then you get grant money for that afterwards as well?
Most grants, you have to expend the money and then you get the money back. Prove that you've spent it and then submit your bills in and receive your funds back.
And is that in income anywhere up on
No, not with,
that
No.
grant money is not in income?
No,
No.
as I keep saying, we don't budget for grant money because you don't know if you're gonna get it. And I don't know, I think I say that at every council meeting.
Is it in the actual income though?
I don't think it's in there yet.
I don't think it's in there yet. Is it, Tom?
no.
Because you have to expend it first before you get the, what,
Yeah, we
Becky?
haven't received.
I know, I didn't think
Right.
we haven't received it.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else in Public Works? So far, we haven't had a lot, oh, whoop, Jennifer? I didn't see you.
I've got a question for recreation.
Oh, boy. There we go.
Yeah, you have a foot on a cord. Somebody could answer, but communications is up considerable, this year. It was at 12,000.
Communications, Jennifer, covers Wi-Fi, phones, it covers everything.
Well, this year it spiked, but it's not spiking for a budget figure. So that's why I was asking, what happened this year?
Was the Wi-Fi, was it the Wi-Fi improvements at Proudy Beach?
I
I
don't
would say, is
know.
that under Proudy Beach?
It's under Proudy Beach,
Yeah.
Yeah, there were Wi-Fi improvements over there.
Yeah,
Okay.
they hired an independent person to come in to fix the Wi-Fi, because that was one of the biggest, other than the facilities, is one of the biggest complaints the council received was the lack of good Wi-Fi at Proudy Beach. And so they had to hire,
It's about $8,000 higher than what you
Yeah.
anticipated.
and then I believe they're paying an annual contract to the gentleman to maintain it.
Yeah.
But that was one of the biggest things we had from the campers was washing machines and Wi-Fi.
And it seemed to work pretty well. There was a couple glitches during the summer months, but typically they were fixed pretty quickly.
Yes.
And I gather you're realigning social security into one lump sum as opposed to breakdown categories? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah, we did that a few years ago.
Okay.
Other questions for either rec or public works? Then I guess we have to move on to other.
You guys might want to stay right
Yeah.
there. Big part of it
Warm to
is
see that from
public, yeah. So other contains all the other things that don't have a home. And this is where we put city landscaper. And I don't think there's been too many surprises on this one. We did increase seasonal salaries because the gardens are getting big and need a little more attention. So you'll notice an uptick there. And again, stop me if anybody has any questions, please. Conservation and development, these are things that we don't control too much. The lease with the bike path right-of-way, VLCT membership, the NVDA dues, and the volunteer band and the street banners. Health officer salary, no surprise there. Recycling project. Total recycling expense. This is where we pay for our household hazardous waste events. and the 2 individuals that are working at the recycling center, as well as our disposal.
Okay, yes, I've got things on recycling, and I think it's from Tom's memo.
Yep.
I guess I disagree with your memo. About, well, only so many people use it, so it's not cost effective. I could come up with an analogy for that. How many residents use recreation to become recreation? See, so I disagree with, the analogy of, it's not cost effective for, it may not be cost effective for recycling, but a lot of the older people rely on this recycling. People I've talked to, and they don't want it to potentially go away, which I know there's some people in the city who would love to have it go away. I do know that, and that's one thing I'm not gonna support ever, right now. Only because it's a service that the city has. Yes, it may not be the most cost effective, but I'm picking on recreation because it's true. We have 4,000 people. Do 4,000 people use recreation? You see what I'm getting at? I'm just using that as an analogy. So when I read your memo, I just didn't want to agree with the memo aspect, and I'm just using recreation as the analogy, because we certainly don't have 44,000 people using recreation. We have recreation available for people. It's like the police. 4,000 people aren't from the city. I'm calling Travis every day. You see, that's another analogy. It's there as a safety net. Fire department. God forbid we have 4,000 people calling the fire department. You see what I'm getting at? It's an analogy. And so I just don't want to see where we get to a point of, okay, it's not cost effective, we're just going to eliminate and send it to Casella, because it's not convenient to go to Casella. It may only be a couple miles extra, but if you're on a busy Saturday morning and you're trying to take all your composting, you're trying to take all your recycling, and the trips back and forth. I know I have a truck, and one year I made 4 trips of leaves. And if you have to do that extra, and I'm only gonna go to recycling on Saturdays. And I know, and so I know there's been talk about potentially looking into moving it, and it's something I just don't support. And I didn't agree with the analogy of, well, only 200 people use it. I just wanted to let you know.
That's fine. I wasn't here when it was the last meeting, when it was brought up, so, I wanted to bring it to your attention for a while now anyways, but, we had Reg, track how many people were using it for about a month, a little more than a month. And so roughly he came up with about 200 people that were utilizing the facility. So as I put it in there, the costs that we have based on the size of the city, the residents in the city, I didn't say I wasn't going to, we're staffing it. We're not gonna change anything. I just wanted to let you know my thoughts on, where we are cost-wise. Especially the container portion of it. I mean, that container, we're gonna have to buy a container in the next few years, and the last one we bought was $8,800. I'm sure now, the way everything else has gone, we're probably looking at $12,000, $13,000 to buy a container. Again, I ended it as saying, I am staffing it, Reg is getting done, but I am going to be, nothing's changed, but I thought I should enlighten everybody as to really what it's costing us.
Is the staffing going to be a union person?
No, not as I speak, no.
No, because I was concerned there, because they get paid way much more if they have to work a weekend. And that
Well,
was,
I'll be honest, it's, Reg is retired, to find somebody that's gonna work an 8-hour on a Wednesday and 4 on a Saturday is pretty tough. Right now, I'm gonna utilize people I have already on staff, not union. Whether they continue to wanna do that, after that, it could be a hurdle for me.
but we never advertised though. And
No, I
we've
kept
known that this has been coming since, good Lord, a month, 2 months, or
But I've
something?
already got somebody to cover it.
Okay.
So,
I guess my main thing
other
is just
side-
not to have a union person where we gotta pay them, however, union wages to do the
There may
recycling.
be times when you do have to do
Yeah.
See,
that.
that's where you should have advertised it in the paper,
No, but
which
there's
was
times-
requested to have it advertised.
There's times that, Ira was out for quite a while. I didn't wanna not keep Ira there, so if Reg got busy, I gave him help. Or if Reg had a day he was gonna be gone, I'd put a staffer there. quite honestly. Sometimes you're gonna run into that. There's nothing, and the problem with a Saturday is I have to pay them an 8-hour day or it's overtime, 4 hours overtime. Again, I just wanted to enlighten everybody as to the waste haulers in the city, if you're paying for one, has to offer it.
They charge
Not
you.
saying
They
I'm
do
not.
charge you for it, where they, they do charge an up the fee for the recycling to the individuals. They say they're not supposed to, but they do find, they have a way around it. I talked to a hauler. He says, yeah, we just call it gas and we put it under gasoline. And that's how they get away of raising and charging an extra $10 a month for recycling, is they're using it as their expenses for picking it up, where they can't charge you for the actual recycling, but they found a loophole where they can actually get their money for it.
Again, it was brought up at the last meeting, so I felt it was, maybe a good time to just throw some facts at you. What you decide to do, that's totally up to you. I'm the one that runs the facility, so I'll keep running it the way I've been running it until you tell me otherwise.
I'm assuming that the 200 are households as opposed to individual residents, so it's 4,200 individual residents, but 200 households.
Well, let me, I'm not gonna say
Yeah.
names or anything, but
No.
let's just say a scenario that there's a couple businesses in the city of Newport that take advantage of this. And they're saving a lot of money by going to our recycling facility, and we have to accept it.
Okay.
And that's all I'm gonna say. I don't wanna throw anybody under the bus, but, again, I didn't mean it to make anybody mad. I left it as, hey, I'm gonna keep running the facility the way we've been running it. I just thought you should know the facts.
I just wanted to let you know my opinion.
That's fine, I haul my own trash to the dump, so it wouldn't be any big deal for me, but either way, we'll keep doing whatever your wish is.
Just out of curiosity, what is hazardous waste mailing? Do we mail hazardous waste, or is that for postage and stuff?
Postage.
Okay, good.
So we won't have to budget for that. That's part of the SWIP, which we're
Right.
paying Casella to do that now.
A lot of savings.
Okay, anything else on that one?
No.
And I'm glad we talked about it. Okay, other expenses, the Orleans County tax, that's a guess. We'll know more probably in early to mid-January, so we put in a placeholder that's a logical guess. The downtown designation is in here. Our insurance that we can't control is in here. The Newport ambulance amount is in here. And there's your total. Debt service is another one that we sort of plug the numbers in. You can see that we're starting to pay off some and incurring others. And then we go into our capital expenditures. And
Questions so far from council? Okay. Can we get through the whole section first? Which
I
is
thought you
other?
were done with expenses.
Pardon me?
I thought you were done with expenses.
We're gonna do the total of the other.
Okay, I thought that was the total of the other.
No,
Okay,
I mean, I'm talking about the other part of the budget, which includes capital and other.
fine.
here. So we can start probably, Tom, with yours. First couple of lines, Public Works vehicles and equipment.
Yeah, it's not a big change there. Everybody is familiar with the 5-year capital plan. That's where I take all my numbers from. No hidden secret there. Every year we update our capital plan for equipment, street resurfacing and reconstruction. Then we got the Main Street maintenance, bridge and culvert and retaining wall. I did up that some because we're probably gonna be doing the causeway project. And I'm looking to apply for a grant if anybody's walked up the East Main Street by the Portland Glass area, that retaining wall there. It's in desperate need of replacement. It's about about ready to fall in. So I upped that, and I hope to get a grant through the state
It's
of
been there
Vermont.
quite a long time.
Yeah.
I remember when we first went to those type of bricks.
1996, that was
Wow.
installed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the street capital design projects, that's the line item that we had kind of put everything together. That way it doesn't limit me to just saying, okay, it's just one particular road. But those funds are currently going towards the Causeway project, which we have 2 grants for.
Is there, we've gotten extensions on those, right, because of COVID, the grants? Because the NBRC was only 2 years, and that was
Yes.
awarded 2 years, right?
Yes.
So we got,
Yes. Good question.
yeah, I just want to make sure.
Yep. So then,
That's about it for me.
so we're still putting aside $10,000 for the municipal building. We usually end up spending it and then some. And then we move into, I don't know if, John, do you wanna come up to the table or yell from there? We're in the firehouse? You're wel- you're
Minor
welcome.
little thing is, for 21-22, we've got 20,000 for repaving the apron in front of the station. It's never been done since the day it was put in, and if we don't do it fairly quickly, we're gonna have to grind it and start from the beginning, so. And then proposed 22-23, you'll see that 38,000 is the payment that we've been making on engine 2 set aside for the new truck.
The new truck, we're planning on going to bond this March?
We're gonna vote.
I meant bond vote, I meant bond vote, a bond vote
Yeah.
for the new truck?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
We'll
John's-
be doing that in January.
Yeah,
yes.
John's gonna be making a presentation to the council on January 3rd
Okay,
to get authorization to move ahead, and if the council moves that, there'll be 2 public hearings, one on, both in February, I believe, February 7th and February 28th.
Mine's pretty simple.
Yeah.
questions on the fire department?
Hearing none, then we'll move into the police department. And Travis, is there anything that you would like to?
Yeah, nothing too crazy here. So for my capital expenditures, the bulletproof vest recycle, or not recycle, replacement cycle. So there is grants available for this. In 2024, I'll be replacing actually 10 vests. They're about $1,000 a piece, so I can plan for that. Those grants usually come out at the beginning of the year through the Department of Justice. So some of those I can plan for. Like I know I have to replace 10 in 2024, so that's why we're setting that money aside. However, throughout the year, if I hire somebody, a new officer, there's not always a grant available for those, so that's why we put this money in there as well for that stuff. And also underneath that is the cruiser vests that we carry that are separate from the vests that we wear every day. Those aren't covered under the DOJ grant, so those actually have to come out of our budgets. And those are anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 a piece for those cruiser vests that we carry. The other is the just tech equipment within the PD itself. Actually recently I had to replace 2 of our internal clouds that we've had. They're 24 terabyte storage, which is a lot of storage. We had one that actually, it didn't really, well, yes, it crashed, and so we had to replace one, and then we replaced another one, so there's a redundant system, because we ended up losing a little bit of data with that, so that's what this stuff is used for as well. And then also with the dispatch equipment, same deal there, setting money aside. Radios are super expensive. If we ever have an issue with any of that, then we have to be able to replace those, so. I think that was it under the capital for police.
Your network devices, just curious, techie question.
Yeah.
Do they automatically go to the cloud too?
Yes.
So it automatically stores
Yeah.
here, but also automatically gets uploaded, so.
Yes, and now we have like a redundant backup to the backup,
That's
so
good.
I won't have any more issues with that,
Good,
so,
good.
yeah.
No, I was just curious.
Yep. Anything else?
And we move back over into facilities maintenance. And Tom, I don't know if you wanna take on that.
That's,
some of the thoughts that we've been talking about.
go ahead, Mike.
So, Tom and I have been talking, and a lot of this stuff falls under Public Works now, but, at Gardner, we're still waiting for the assessment, the environmental assessment, so we figure we might as well move the timeline up on some of those other projects that were further down, like the electrical lighting system for the ball fields. The other day, we talked about, repairing the dugouts, because those are in need of repair, so those are further on the list, and we're gonna probably move them up on the list. At Proudy Beach, Tom already mentioned campsite expansion to the overflow and make those permanent sites, which include the utilities, landscaping, so that way there's a little bit of privacy, the primitive sites on the other side. So those are some of the Proudy Beach things, and improving the electrical along that, to 50 amp. The waterfront and the gateway, I know lighting on the docks has been an issue, so improving the lighting and the electrical to the slips is gonna be a project that we're working
So
on.
that's all under waterfront improvements?
That's all under
Correct.
waterfront.
Okay, so that's why dock, electrical went to 0 then?
That's all under waterfront, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So those are some of the projects that I know of.
Questions from council members? Anybody?
I don't particularly have a question, but I know that, this capital has, been implemented and going along, and I really like the fact that, it's looking 5 years out, and so you know what you're doing, you've got plans, and that gives you the flexibility to be able to say, as you said, we've had delay maybe because of the brownfield, so we can juggle projects, and it just gives, I think, gives the city a good opportunity and the department heads to be able to manage well resources and projects and priorities and being able to adapt to situations that happen. I appreciate thought that goes into these things.
We will be bringing the capital plan for renewal after March. Our goal is to have that in front of the council for May.
Thanks.
Questions? Anymore? I think Ann had a question.
I had a question about the downtown development money, which was $60,000. For the past couple of years, the citizens of Newport paid $30,000 of that, and the Walmart fund paid for $30,000 of that $60,000. Is that still true? That we're not paying for the full 60?
Yes.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Other questions? Then, if you look at the bottom line on expenditures, it's 2.98% on the bottom line. And then if you go back to the recap, it looks like the proposed tax rate's up less than 1%. If you go to the recap page, correct?
Yep.
And this doesn't take into account any growth in the grand list,
No,
because you gotta use hard numbers for that.
it's
So the overall budget's only up, was it 41,433? So I think it's a good budget.
I do have a question, but it's on expenditures.
Okay, go ahead.
I noticed the grandstand, $26,241.47 was budgeted in 19 and 20. And 25,000 was budgeted this fiscal year. Now, hopefully it won't get demolished. It'll, the committee's working hard and salvage it. But where's that money gone?
That's
51,000.
No, it's right here. This is in this year's budget, and
That was actuals, he's looking at, isn't it?
you're looking at this over here.
Yeah,
This-
that was the first one I was looking at.
That was the red barn, that was
That was
actually
the barn.
expensed on the demolition of the red barn.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
this,
That one there has been, what I brought up last year.
right,
Yeah.
this one, the Grandstand Committee or the association is working on this, and is gonna, I think, make a proposal before May, if I'm not mistaken.
There'll be a proposal, you know, we're working on that part.
So that money's
It'll
already
be soon.
Yeah.
budgeted?
Last year.
Yeah, Kevin, we, back, I don't know, prior to that actuals of 1920 that was spent, so it'd be the year prior to that, we had, the Red Barn, the Grandstand, the Skate Shack, and another building that is involved in the, water tower project that we had assessed for asbestos and lead abatements. And then the following year, that money that, the actuals was the Red Barn taken down. So we had plans back then that these facilities had issues and we were going to either address them or remove them.
So that money that's budgeted, the 25,000?
The 25,000 was to take down the grandstand. I mean, that was,
But it's not gonna be taken down?
no, well, we bought, everybody agreed when we assessed when we assessed the buildings, everybody, or at least knew about it, that we were going to pursue taking the facilities down. The Red Barn was the first one, and then we went to the grandstand. And then, of course, the committee came up and that's on hold. So, but that 25,000 was to take the grandstand down.
Can it be used if they decide that it can be preserved? That money, can it be used?
That's what these guys are gonna ask of you guys. So
Yeah,
they're,
that's a
com-
council decision.
yeah, they're coming up with
We'll
a
figure
plan.
that out.
Okay.
They're gonna come up
We're
with a
close to
plan.
that proposal, the study being done. And we'll present it to the council, tell you what we think, what we hope, and then you guys will have to decide whether it comes down or not. You decide, you make that decision. We
The
can't make
study is due, it's been delayed because of COVID issues, and they've been dealing with the
Everybody's
state
working from
on
home, they're not
issues,
even
and they're
in their
working from
offices.
home, and so it got delayed. We had hoped to have it by now, and it's been delayed. Unfortunately, COVID hasn't helped with that whole situation,
We're
but,
hoping by the first of the year, but it'll be soon after that. I think.
yes. They've been
That
very
answer your
quick.
question, Kevin?
It does.
Yeah.
Not good with numbers.
Okay, any other questions? So, as I said, the overall budget, I think it's a darn good budget to come in only at 41,433. I think it's a real good budget. And I think that everyone involved did a good job in coming up and presenting the council. I think that,
And since this municipal budget is a little bit less than 1%, but our tax rate will be affected by whatever appropriations are.
also,
Well,
the
that-
school.
Yeah, that'll add a little bit to that. You get about $160,000 for the taxes.
And then the schools are separate, but that's what's been driving the tax rate, has been the education side.
We won't know what that.
And they don't know that either. I think it's more complicated this year because when I've kind of been following the school board, and there's something about Act 173 and there's something about doing block grants, and the last thing I read is this district, instead of gaining money, could lose a huge chunk with, I think, a special ed. Something that they're trying to do something with block grants instead, to redo the funding, and it could have a real negative impact on this area as far as what you would have to come up with locally.
Let me guess, it'll all go to Chittenden County.
Well, I don't know, but who knows? Jennifer?
Totally off the subject, but Kevin mentioned it. The water tower, what is the status of the new one?
The new one?
Yeah.
I went to a ARPA training that was remote last week, and they talked about all the various things that you can use the ARPA funds for. And they are suggesting right now that municipalities go slow because there's so much other funding coming out. And with some of this ARPA funding, you may be able to actually use federal match to federal dollars. So, a lot of municipalities and the advice from the VLCT and MVDA, which are authorities, are recommending just slow it down until we get more information.
When will you be deciding how much money that's gone into the restricted fund from grants coming in, and you're putting basically our money, the citizens' money from the previous budget into restricted as a result, how much of that you will bring forward to compensate for that 41,433 difference and make it even less of an increase?
I wasn't thinking anything about that. I think this is a darn good budget, and I think, I know we already allocated the restricted, unrestricted, but I don't think, it's really not good budgeting to always offset your budget either with those funds. But those funds are put there, I look at when you receive, we expend the grant money. I look at it as, it's allowed us to do other projects without having to go to the taxpayers on certain things. It offsets it, like this out here, this park here, the
But
rec path.
over many years, you gave us some offset from all the extra money that you brought in that we'd have already paid for.
But that's
Now we're
bad,
getting
it's bad
nothing.
budgeting, it's bad budgeting to do
It's
that,
not
because
bad
because
budgeting.
eventually it dries up, and then you have to have a huge jump. You know,
Why don't
it's
you give us a
accounting. But it's, eventually that money dries up, and then you have to get hit with a big tax increase. That did happen before, here in the city.
More than once.
More than once, and then you have to make up for it. And so, I look at it that this is, I'm happy with this budget as it's being presented. I don't know how other council members feel, but I think out of a $6 million, a $5 million, almost $6 million budget, and it's only up 41,000, I think that's darn good budgeting on our staff, the manager, the department heads. You know, I think it's darn good budgeting. And so, and it's up it's up basically a penny, a little more than a penny, and we know the grand list is gonna grow, but you just can't budget for it, because once again, it's using a number you don't know, and that's a problem in the past too with the council. They would always try to estimate the grand list, and we stopped doing that too, because it came back to bite us one year where we had a much bigger tax increase because we overestimated what we thought the grand list was gonna grow. So that's another thing in these budgets, is we no longer estimate it, we use the actual grand list. And that's, once again, proper budgeting in my opinion.
But let's just think about it. Let's say we pay $10,000 towards police vests. The citizens pay that. And during that year, you get $10,000 grant, and that pays for it. So you put $10,000 that year into restricted. And the next year it happens, and the next year it happens. And eventually you have, $100,000 over a 10-year period on just the vests alone, you have $100,000 in restricted. Some of that money could at least be used so the citizens wouldn't have to keep forking up more money each year. But instead of that, on your theory, all of the money that you get in grants will always go into restricted, and the
Because it
citizens
offsets
won't see it.
But it offsets future expenditures that we know we're gonna have to budget for. It helps offset those future, it's like.
It doesn't
Let me
because
finish
you
my-
have a budget
Let
that.
me finish my train of thought. I'm gonna use an analogy. The fire chief, we have a bond that's being paid off, that's $38,000. We could just say we're gonna cut $38,000 out of the budget, but we know we have to bond for a new fire truck. So in reality, that payment is gonna be a couple years before the truck would get in here. You're gonna have $70,000 to go towards the fire truck, so you won't have to borrow as much to buy the new truck. There again, that's thinking ahead, having the forethought. And I guess I just look at grants as kind of helping us offset future costs that we know we're gonna have to have. I hope I'm thinking the right mentality or thought. Yeah.
So I also think that it's not absolutely accurate to say that the money is just piling up and piling up and piling up. If we were looking at grants from year to year, the police department, radio grants, vests, things like that, most of those, almost every grant needs to be matched. So if you have those restricted funds that you've carried over, you can match that grant with basically, which was previous grant
But
money.
it's already budgeted.
So-
The full cost of the vest is budgeted in the next budget. but that we are supposed to pay for.
So Ann, I think we have to agree to disagree on
Yeah,
how
we
it's
must.
done.
We must.
Mr. Mayor, can I say something?
Mhm.
If we're talking all the restricted funds, I mean, if I look at the bigger numbered ones, which are usually public works, vehicles or paving, you know, a lot of times, I might not have got to a paving project, well, I'm not losing those funds. We're just carrying those over to the next year so I can pave 2 or 3 streets. Same with equipment, sometimes, hey, it just didn't work out that, that the lead time on a vehicle, I wasn't gonna get that vehicle, so we put it off a year. I don't lose those funds.
No, no, no.
Otherwise, I'm
That's
backing,
quite-
I'm backing
quite
up.
different than the money that you get in excess of, for grants, which has already been paid for by the citizens.
But it's not being wasted. It's put to good use. It's either put to the next project coming up or the next vehicle they need or equipment they need or.
Basically, if you didn't have it, these numbers that are in capital would be probably
A
double.
lot bigger.
A lot
And
higher.
also, the auditors also said it's good practice to have reserve funds in case you have a disaster.
Mhm.
And I believe we have some, that's the restricted or unrestricted, Laura, refresh my memory on,
Right.
could you go over that again?
Yeah.
Because they say a percent of your budget should be, right there, it's 246.
This is,
That's
these are-
unassigned.
These are the 3 categories: restricted, committed, assigned, unassigned, and this is what they mean down here.
Right. And so, every municipality, or most of them in Vermont, they actually have, which is that, is it the unassigned that you carry, Laura? That the auditor said is in case you have a disaster?
This one right here.
Yes,
the
and that's a
unassigned.
percent. The auditors recommend a percent, and I know, checking
Mhm.
with other municipalities, we're within that percent. That's for like an unknown disaster. We have, I don't know, I'll pick on the fire department again. One of our big fire trucks just completely breaks down and we have a panic and we gotta go find a fire truck. Things like that. Or something happens to this building, or things like that. It's just, so that's what I look at that aspect, yes.
I get that from the point of those of you sitting there. However, at the same time, you have Newport residents who are losing their homes because they can't afford their taxes. So, that's something that you could factor in while you're building up this nice slush fund. And I get that it's going to good things. You still have people paying a lot of money to live in this city.
Well,
How
I
many,
think-
how many people lost their homes this year?
The tax sales don't quite work that way. You
Right.
don't just
I
lose
don't-
it.
Well, I know it's a year before you lose it, but
Yeah.
one couple passed away, didn't they? And one, I mean, nobody lost their home.
Yeah, it doesn't
To
quite
work
work
that
that
way.
But I also think, instead of coming after the city, I think people also need to go after the schools. I know it's not a thing that some people want to hear, but every year, their percent income goes way up more than the city percent. Yet, I don't hear the uproar or whatever about going after that. So, I just think, for too many years too, the city would try to offset our budget. We cut maintenance to the point to offset the education tax rate, that it came back to bite us. There were 2 years we reduced the budget, and it was a negative, it was a reduction in the tax rate. But it came back to bite us on maintenance, and I know, I've been on the council a long time, and I made it well known that I would never go back to the day that we would have to once again float $1 million bond. I remember Dick Barra, may he rest in peace, he used to always say that too. Because when we first got on the council was paying off $1 million bond because they didn't maintain streets. And I know I would never want to go back to that mentality of not maintaining your infrastructure and maintaining what we have. So I don't consider that a slush fund. I do not. I do not consider it. I consider it wisely putting money towards future equipment and future needs and future infrastructure and things like that.
And it's also why we're audited every single year, and I think that following the advice of auditors is, they are the trained professionals, they are the ones who understand these things, municipality, the whole 9 yards, and I think it's wise, and I think it's a good sign that the city is operating under the guidance of auditors, who that's their job, that's what they look at all the time. So I'm confident in the budget, and I'm confident in the accounting process.
I think people gotta realize that a lot of our grants the city may pay the initial cost, but they're drawdown grants. We pay it, we submit the paperwork, we get it back. That type of thing. So that's all in there too. And a lot of that restricted committed money for projects that are gonna be done, but basically Tom is all mostly where it hasn't got to yet. So that money's sitting there when he do those projects, so we don't have to budget for it. That's what the money's for. Let me just say, Tom and I have been here the longest, probably 28 and 25 years respectively. I was on the council for 8 years before that. And I don't know if Tom can remember it, but I don't ever remember the budget increase being less than 1%
No,
in all those years.
this is a good budget, and I'm proud to say that it's a good budget.
I understand what everybody's saying, but to see a budget less than 1%, man, I think that's pretty darn good.
Well, with the
I've
cost
never
of
seen that.
materials going up so high as well, and the improvements that we're seeing in the city, it's a good number.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm optimistic we'll have this on for vote at the January 3rd meeting.
Mhm.
That's great. Thank you. I appreciate your confidence in the budget.
We have auditors for a reason.
Do what?
We have auditors for a reason.
All
We
right,
have
we
this kind of
have-
process for a reason.
Is that two different? Oh, okay, I know why. That's old. The next item is the event policy amendment.
Yes, so I brought this before the council at the December 6th meeting, and I got your feedback. So I've submitted to you a red line version and then a black and white version that shows the red line version being what it looks like in permanent. And my takeaway was that we preferred not to have a cap on the duration. So I removed any reference to the cap of duration. And the other red paragraphs I took out of red and italics and infused it in there. I could just look at that in a second, if it's troubling you. So we've added a paragraph 4, which is a definition of a parade. And we've added, we've reiterated that everything else in the events guidebook and the events permit must be adhered to, and we have a section to take care of animals on the rare occasions that we do have animals in parades. And then I cleaned up the very last paragraph. I got rid of some redundancy, changed the will to a may, thinking that would give them some more flexibility. And that's it. That's all I have. So if council is inclined to be comfortable with that.
Question? Anyone on the amended? I think it's good, the changes.
Yeah, I hope so, working.
As we all know, policies evolve, policies evolve over time and they improve as you work them, or use them, I mean. They tend to improve, you find the things that need to be changed and updated and,
So, and I just, for the precautions that will be taken within the parade lineup, so whoever is organizing the parade will know not to, I can remember one time got put next to, my horses, got put next to the tuba, which was quite interesting. So, yeah.
I take it your horse did not like the tuba.
Well, he was a little startled.
It's intended to have that be part of the parade policy.
Yep.
And I looked at a couple of other models, including one from the National Association of Leagues and Towns.
Mhm.
And I thought that was a good strategy.
Yep.
It's also requiring the parade organizer to accept registration so that we can have another level of assurance.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that way you know what's coming.
Exactly. You know how many, you know how long, you know what kind of road closures you're gonna need and other things. So it's really meant to put a little more, I guess, organization so that we all know what to expect and the public knows what to expect. We can advertise it with more clarity and reality. It just seems like it's a better service.
Any questions from council members on this? Comments? Then I guess we would entertain a motion to approve the event policy amendment.
So moved.
A motion made by Mr. Vashon, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Pedersen, discussion? Then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you.
We'll move on to new business. I guess we can hold these up, I'll start with this. Somebody wanna hold it up and show everybody? The city council received these in the mail. It's from a Jean-Noel Fortin, Canton de Stansted. Here are 2 reproductions of historical scenes of your city to which I added characters to make these paintings more interesting. I offer you these 2 reproductions in the hope that you like them. I have been painting for over 50 years, and the aim of my approach is to provide you with these scenes in different formats and material. And we sent both of those down for us. I think they're very nice.
And there's actually a little
Thing on the back.
history on the back there.
Yeah.
Great job. And if you want more, they can be ordered.
And if people like them so much, they can order them if they want. But I thought that was nice. That's all I had on the new business. Mr. Johnson, any new business? Mr. Charbonnet? Mr. Wilson?
No.
Mr. Pedersen?
No.
Mr. Vashon?
No, thank you.
Ms. Dolan? No? Okay. And we'll move to old business. Mr. Johnson?
Nope.
Mr. Charbonnet? Mr. Wilson?
Yes, I'd like to thank an individual, our fire chief, for what he did as part of his job. It's very well done. And then I would also like to thank our health officer, who is also the fire chief, for cleaning up a pretty nasty mess of garbage over on East Main Street. I spoke to him, and within 3-4 days it was all cleaned up. You know, people just throw their garbage and the animals get in it all over. It was an eyesore across from the cemetery, so thank you for both actions.
That was the old business? That was old.
Well, the first one was kind of old. That was
Yeah, yeah,
a week
nope,
ago, yeah.
okay, yeah.
You trying to say I'm old?
Any old business?
No.
Any old business?
Just kind of new old business. The city continues to look amazing with all the lights and all that hard work really shows.
Yes, receiving a lot of compliments.
I'm so pleased.
Any old
No,
business?
thank you.
I guess the only old business I might have, because there was something mentioned about it, I did remove, the council knows, I did remove the cannabis discussion from the agenda. I was just a tad concerned that the comment was made that we may regret it, and I was just a little concerned about what the word regret was referring to, because the voters spoke, and in order to have it back where you could technically have a retail cannabis store, per what I understand is you'd have to have a special election. And I certainly wasn't in favor of spending $500 to $800 to have a special election before town meeting, being so close to town meeting. So I just wanted to let everyone know that I chose to remove it as a presentation to the council, because, and the council pretty much concurred with me on that discussion. So I just was concerned when I see we may regret it, because I don't know why we would regret by not having it on the agenda. That's the only thing that I wanted to bring up under old business, because I was just a little surprised by that, because I just don't know what we're gonna regret not having on the agenda. To me, there's too many questions still. The more I think about it, the more I read, I don't know. I've developed, I guess, concerns over the past year since we had the vote on things from what I've been reading, and I don't know. I don't think law enforcement's too keen on it, even though the state has legalized it. And so, that's all I want to bring up under old business. Anything else? Then the next meeting will be January 3rd, 2022, 6:30 PM here, and we need a motion to adjourn at 8:05.